Hello, neighbors. I have been asked to share in this meeting. Unfortunately, Rebecca and I cannot attend the meeting. We are out of town celebrating number 4 baby coming in August. I've been tasked to share a little bit about the process that we've been through up until this point. We're kind of in the middle of what is a very long and drawn out process, and sometimes we can lose track of where we are. First of all, a little bit of history. In most of 2019, we might have started a little bit before. I started a process collaborating with SK, who was the Solterra president at the time, where we went through and defined as a community what our values are. And we had a whole committee that worked on that. Thank you to all those committee members. And then we also went through and defined what our consensus process is. It had kind of gotten lost in the community along the way, and so we were resurrecting what had once been and kind of took it in and made it our own. It's a six-step process. It starts with defining the issue. What is the issue that we want to tackle? Step 2 is talking about what questions do people have. Are there any issues that we need to bring up, past hurts or concerns and that sort of thing. Number 3 is an important step. We spent a good bit of time figuring out what are the criteria that would make a successful project or a successful proposal. And so we spent a lot of time talking about what would make this project successful. I'm not going to rehash what those criteria are. If somebody after this, or maybe before, they've already shared what are those criteria, that's always helpful to remember. That's something that the Paths Committee, though, has had in front of them at each step along the way. Step 4 is where we're at right now, is generating proposals. And so you have seen some proposals, and the last community meeting, there was one specific proposal. That's where we're at right now, and the idea is for us to discuss, does the proposal meet the criteria? And if not, what can we change to adjust and begin to move forward? The next step after this, when we feel like we're on the right page, is to have consensus. And we'll each come and agree that this proposal is the one we want to move forward, the one that we have decided on at that point. And then step 6 is the implementation, which really honestly launches another project, which is, hey, let's put these things into place and deal with whatever comes up along the way. And so as you can see, a lot of work and a lot of steps have gone into where we are today. And we're not done yet. We have a ways to go. Now, it's easy to think about proposals and from an individual point of view, this is what I want or this is what I don't want. But I think it's important, and we've learned it's important also to mention that many of the people on the facilitation committee and others in the community have gone through many different trainings. We've hired outside people to come in and train us and teach us and help us to learn how other co-housing communities are doing their facilitation, to kind of see what some of the best practices are. And so that's where this process has come out of. We didn't just make it up. We took it from others who have gone before us. And in that learning, I think one of the big things that we picked up was the idea of cooperation versus competition. And what's different about a co-housing community is that idea that we are here as individual and households, but really we don't compete with each other in getting what we want. We cooperate, and a big part of that process is right here in this kind of meeting, where we listen to each other, we hear others' point of view, and allow ourselves to be shaped by that, and to say, oh, that's a good point. Maybe I'll readjust my thinking about how I was coming about this, and maybe we can find some middle ground. And really, honestly, this is where the magic happens. We are in the step of this whole process where the magic happens. Differing points of view, different criteria even that may seem to be in competition we can see how they can fit together. And there's this analogy of a quilt that, when you see a quilt finished, it looks beautiful, but there was a lot of things that had to go into that may have seemed intention at one point that go into making this beautiful tapestry when it's all done. And so just to conclude, I want to say, really the consensus process redefines winning and losing. So our culture, generally out there at work or wherever you're spending time, it's a competitive culture. It's kind of like if I don't look out for myself, nobody is. And so winning and losing has defined in one way. In Solterra and in a co-housing situation, winning, I would say, is redefined. And so in this case, and I'm also on the Paths Committee, and I can say that winning looks like not any particular proposal or any particular idea going forth, but winning looks like us coming together and seeing that magic happen and finding something that we can all be excited about and live with and work with together. And that process of creating that is the tangible thing that we get to keep. I'd say it's intangible, but that is the result that we get to keep. But the stakes are high. Many who have been in this community since the beginning know that there's been decisions made in the past that people still grumble about. And so that is also a potential intangible reality that we can keep going forward, which is grumbling and frustration about whatever decision was made. And so I want to just take this moment to call us to make the magic happen, to think about other people's point of view, and to see ways that we can pull all of these things together and really hold on to and say, this was an amazing experience, and I'm so glad that I live in this community. I could live in a cul-de-sac neighborhood somewhere else, or I could live out in the country by myself, but I live here in co-housing with my neighbors in Solterra, and I'm proud to be a member of this community. So with that, I will pass it on back to whoever's next, and I look forward to, over the next months, or however long it takes, to working and making the magic happen together.